But when it comes to allowing people to be themselves, that's what, as a spiritual person, and you're dealing with women who want to be more spiritual and more esoteric, the key is you don't have to have your partner agree with you. You don't have to seek resonance with your partner. What you want to seek in a romantic relationship is not resonance. What you want to experience is the integration of opposites. The integration of opposites. So the more spiritual become, the more grounded he is and sort of conservative stuff.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. I am so privileged to have Dr. John Gray with me. And for those of you that are familiar, you'll remember that he is an author, and he is mostly known for, or became very, very popular back in the 90s by writing a book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. And what an honor it is to have you, Dr. Gray. Thank you so much for being here. And I can't wait to talk about relationships.
I'm really happy to. I'm delighted.
Yeah, it's nice to have you. Um, Dr. Gray he's actually coming out with a book at the end of September. And the book is Be Happy With or Without a Man. And this sparked a little light bulb in me. And the reason why I really wanted to talk about this is for a number of different reasons. But the main thing is that I found through when people start going through spiritual awakening, or they start stepping into a different way of being than the way that they were raised, or the traditional religious backgrounds, they start finding that they may start struggling with relationships. And not only friendship relationships, but romantic relationships, whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, or marriages, or whatever it may be. And so I felt like with Dr. Gray's knowledge and wisdom, that he could help guide us through this time that we're experiencing right now with such huge shifts and changes. So, Dr. Gray, would you mind giving us a little bit of background? And specifically, I want to focus on why you fit into the spiritual realm, as well as just your knowledge in the counseling background.
Well, I mentioned to you before the interview, we're surprised, but I grew up, I was doing yoga at 3 years old. My mother had an esoteric bookstore. Most people in California know about the Bodhi Tree bookstore. At the same time, my mother had the Aquarian Age bookshelf, which without ever advertising, she just bought a house, put her own library in there. It was a loaning library. And then it became the biggest esoteric bookstore in the world without ever advertising. She had to build extensions. Of course, when I became famous, then she had to build a whole extension just for all of my books. I had videotapes. In the old days, there was big videotapes, and I had games, I had cards, I had T-shirts, I had hats, I had the whole shebang in the 90s. It was the biggest selling book in the world for the 90s of all books during that time. So it was a very big, exciting thing. But the spirituality is a big part of my life. How I got into relationships. I was in the 60s, rock and roll, sex, drugs, rock and roll, got high, but crashed. And the Beatles said you can get high and you don't crash. So I became a meditator. I learned transcendental meditation, and it just was written in my heart. This is for me to do. And I went off and I lived with Maharishi for 9 years. I was his personal assistant. I traveled the world with him. I taught over 15,000 teachers of transcendental meditation. I'm a master meditator. I don't teach it. I don't even meditate anymore because I can't get out of the state. It would just, I'm sort of trapped into the state of meditation all the time, which if I'm not being of service to the world, it's not a comfortable state. Just people think, oh, enlightenment. Well, we all have different experiences as we progress. I'm sure it will change as well. But at this stage in my life, I just am meditation all the time and most comfortable and happy and fulfilled when I'm being of service. Mm-hmm. So I also have time for myself and enjoy myself too. I was being this celibate for 9 years. And then one day, one awakening, there's many awakenings you have in life. I realized that now I had sort of reached this enlightenment state. I wanted to, what am I going to do with the world? And so The thing that my teacher had not taught me was, as his assistant, I would always answer questions for people and help him. But he said relationship questions. He's a monk, so he knows nothing about it. So ironically, the path I took was something that I had to find on my own, which was relationships. And suddenly having relationships with women, I realized I know nothing about women and began studying women. I grew up with five brothers, six brothers, and uh, five brothers, six including me. So I knew all about masculinity. I was in a monk only with men. I had girlfriends as a teenager, but when I came back out into the world, I realized I didn't know much about women and they all didn't make sense to me. So I made sense of them. And that's what Men Are From Mars is making sense of women and helping women make sense of men. People, when they read my books, they always go, well, that makes sense. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. It makes it sound so easy. It makes it easier. Relationships are still very challenging.
Yeah.
And you've been talking about today a big challenge that people have as the world is changing. There's division. There's division everywhere, left and
Mhm.
right, uh, racial division. We're going to a period of time of huge division, and happens in marriages. And so, one of the issues that you brought up to me was that one partner, I would assume it's always the woman, who feels like she's taken a leap into what a man might think is airy fairyland. Uh, and
Mhm.
what do you do about that? And my approach is as a counselor, I deal with these problems all the time, and it's I still counsel people. I travel around the world. I teach in over 20 countries. I'm a best-selling author, but I stay in what's going on by having a regular counseling practice as well. Not just, people say, how did you learn so much about women? Well, I sat there in my office for 8 hours a day listening to women.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you realize that almost all women are married to the same man. So
Mm.
you don't know that as a woman. You think it's just your husband who does these things, but I could have been the husband to all these women without understanding women. Because what I mean by that is their complaints were all the same.
Ah.
And when your complaints are the same, you realize, okay, so what is the issue here and how do you solve it? And the best way, the most empowering way I can give to women, most empowering way I can give to men is to realize that all your problems are because of you. Because if your problem is your partner, you can't change your partner. You cannot change your partner. You can only change yourself. So many times women will give to me, I'll just talk about women since they're the ones we're talking about right now. Could be a man as well. I was just counseling a man who's has all these complaints about his partner. I said, well, that's who she is. So you can't change that. You cannot change that. So what do you keep getting upset about it?
Mhm.
Imagine you love someone and they're in a wheelchair. You can't say, well, if you love me, you'll stand up and walk.
Yeah.
You can't do that. But what you can do is work with it and realize that God gives us the situations to help challenge us to be a better person. And one of the big lessons we have to learn as human beings on this planet is that has to, the outer world triggers our unhappiness, but until we can find happiness within, the outer world can't change. And it's resonance, it's frequency. If I'm coming from a place of happiness, the outer world will shift in some way to
Mhm.
provide what I'm actually needing. But a lot of times we don't know what we need, and women often don't know what they need. They think they do, but they don't know.
Mhm.
If you're not happy and fulfilled in your life, it's because you don't know what you need. You think you know, you think you do, but there is a reality, and particularly the more spiritual people are, the more you live in a world of grace. In grace, I have all this because my mother was an example of grace. Nothing could upset my mother. My mother was, imagine, six boys, one girl, and never seeing my mother unhappy, but unconditional love all the time. Uh, because of she was anchored in God. Okay, I had a God
Mhm.
conscious mother who just was full of love. I don't have the stories of all the trauma that people have in their lives. I do have trauma in my childhood because all my brothers were jealous of me. So there were other types of trauma, but my
Sibling
parents,
trauma.
other trauma. When I came along, I'm number five. My mother finally convinced my father. Remember, they live in Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's standard procedure at that time in the 50s that when your children aren't behaving, you pull out the belt and you whip them.
Yeah.
Okay, you spank them, but it was more Texas is to whip them.
Yeah.
And my mother just thought, I'm, my mother's from California, but anyways, went to live in Texas with my dad. So when I came along, she said, one of the brothers ended up going to jail and so forth. And maybe we could do a different approach with Johnny. So the approach was never to punish me. So I'm the product of total freedom. And people ask my mother, well, what did you do with him? She was in one of my classes one time, and I was sharing that they never punished me. And she says, you know, we decided we just put Johnny in the hands of God. So I grew up without punishment. I know how you can raise children without punishment, but you have to have really good communication.
Yeah.
Uh, you, you know, when you can't communicate effectively, a parent who can communicate effectively engenders cooperation with your children. Children will be children, but you create a sense of cooperation. And if parents are listening and you want to raise your children without having to need punishment, you can look at my book. I have a book on it, which is called Children Are From Heaven.
Mm.
But another book is called Hunt, Gather, Parent. And it's even better than mine. Okay. So it's
Mm.
harder to put into practice, but it's a whole nother way of raising children to let them find themselves and don't mold them. Let them find their genius. And it's freedom. It's
Yeah.
love. It's unconditional love. And that's tough for parents. It takes a lot of attention to do that.
Mm.
And that's a whole nother subject. But when it comes to allowing people to be themselves, that's what, as a spiritual person, and you're dealing with women who want to be more spiritual and more esoteric, the key is you don't have to have your partner agree with you. You don't have to seek resonance with your partner. What you want to seek in a romantic relationship is is not resonance. What you want to experience is the integration of opposites.
Yeah.
The integration of opposites. So the more spiritual become, the more grounded he is, and sort of conservative stuff. Don't don't think that's a bad thing. See, you're just trying to convince him to support that part of you. You
Right.
don't have to get that support. You get that support from your like-minded people, which would be other women. Now, in this new book I have, which is called "Be Happy with or Without a Man," the key to a foundation for a relationship with a man is that you're not looking to him for feminine resonance. Feminine resonance is very, very important. And when women don't have enough of that, they expect it from a man. You
Mm-hmm.
don't want that. You don't expect your dog to, have a conversation with you, but you love your dog
Mm-hmm.
and you can train your dog. Well, men are very trainable as long as you don't try to change them. You ask them to do things and you reward them, and then they naturally do more things for you. So it's learning how to motivate men to give you what you need, but you have to know what you need. You don't need this sort of feminine spiritual resonance from your husband. You think you do. And then you'll feel like you need it even more if you're trying to change him, then he will resist it. Men only resist when you try to change them. If you don't try to impose your ideas on him, expect him to agree with you, he's going to be fine with you. So you have categories of your life. You've got your bucket of spirituality, the people that align with you spiritually. That's good. You have that. What you have with a man is this two opposite forces wanting to blend together, which is a foundation that every woman needs, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when I say every woman, I don't mean every woman, but if you're already in a relationship and you are a mother, particularly, and you have that, you have a project, a family, that's one part of your life. Then you've got your universal family, which is your divine connection with God, with the all, and how that shows up for you is how it shows up for you. There's many paths. There's so many different ways of looking at spirituality, and they all have their same destination, which is love and service. And so what I've done in my work is looked at the polarity of masculine and feminine. It's that, there's the one and then there's the two. And when the two come together, it creates a foundation where you can then find the one, which is that you're one with everything. And so part of it is to see yourself in your husband and see the validity of that. And he will see this, the part of his feminine side, which is in you, and that's for the foundation. That's like building a house, and then you live in the house, and your house is, you can have your spirituality, you can have, you can do crystals, you can go to past life regressions, you can go to Akashic records, all those things, and just say to him, this is my thing that makes me happy. You don't have to be thinking like this, but don't make fun of it.
Yeah.
That's it. You set a boundary. This makes me happy. If you do it that way, a man will respect it. It's how you approach a man. He will respect you. But if you don't respect him, he can't respect you. And so you can't, part of respecting someone is allowing them to be who they are, honoring who they are, and appreciating who they are. And the recognition, the it's my horn.
It's okay.
Okay. So it's respecting that can be even more fulfilling because you're not looking to a man for everything. One of the problems that I explain to women is that whenever they're unhappy in relationships, they're always expecting him to give more because something's missing inside of them.
Yeah.
What's missing inside of them is spirituality, is friendships with other women, is work that they enjoy doing. These are things that are very important to make the female biology. The female biology is different from the male biology. In order to feel good, to feel connected, to return to source for a woman or for a man, you can't be producing cortisol hormones on a consistent basis. Whenever you have stress hormones, your brain becomes hijacked, your heart closes, and you disconnect from your spiritual source.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we want to do whatever we can to manage stress in our lives. And the actual techniques that we call spiritual techniques are what they're doing is actually just managing stress. So
Mm-hmm.
all the spiritual techniques, transcendental meditation being one, but there's hundreds, their effectiveness is that they're strategies that will lower your stress. And whenever you lower your stress, you have now access to your soul. And through your soul, you have access to your spirit. And through your spirit, you have access to the Akashic records and to the divine. And you can align yourself with your divine purpose. When people ask me all the time, how did you become so successful? I don't work harder than anybody else, but I work harder than most people in making sure that I don't let inverted emotions control my life. I don't even call them negative. I try not to call them negative. They're inverted. Is that when you feel love and when your love stops, if you choose to stop loving, you now have a negative emotion.
Mm-hmm.
You choose to stop having faith and to trust, you now have a negative emotion, fear. It's the same energy. It's just one energy is flowing, the other energy is blocked. So
Mm-hmm.
blocked faith meaning not a religion thing, but trusting in the universe, trusting that everything's in the right place at the right time. It's here to teach me lessons, and I have everything I need to learn those lessons. Now, I can teach this stuff easily because it's what I live. I don't even think to teach it. It's because of who my mother was. I got to resonate that. That was just the sea I swam in when I was a child growing up. Most people don't have that. So we have to have practices in order to find that resonance. And so we start to resonate with it. Our energy will start to increase. Your divine energy will start to increase, and then it will rub up against your limited beliefs. And that's going to cause negative emotions. And then if you can learn to let go of those negative emotions, then you rise to another level. And then more energy will come through and it will hit your own limited beliefs. And that will cause negative emotions. And then you have
Mm-hmm.
to process those negative emotions. And behind every negative emotion is a frustrated desire. Okay, I want more love. I'm not getting love. And so what we foolishly do is say, then I won't give love. That's what we do. Okay. As opposed to I don't want, I want more love. You're not giving me love. Well, what can I do to get more love? And the first thing is whenever you get in touch with what you don't want, it becomes very clear what you do want. See, this is the polarity of the world we live in. So I don't want this, I do want this. And then if you actually truly feel what you want, then and you can't fully feel what you want unless you can fully feel what you don't want. It's very
Mm-hmm.
important. And to fully feel what you don't want means to fully feel negative emotions. Negative emotions are the expressions of feeling what I don't want, if you can feel them. Then you feel what I do want. And if you can fully feel what you do want, now you have the juice to manifest what you do want. And the foundation of that is you start to feel what you do want, you take time to be grateful for what you do have. And when you can come from a place of wanting what you have and wanting more, you have an alchemical, psychological state which allows you to take the right action to then arrive at the right place to take the next step to arrive at what you do want eventually.
Mm-hmm.
It's all very practical. It's not just I'm manifesting my future by imagining having it, and I'm just imagining having it's going to happen. It doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
It's an up and a down, and it's in and an out. I've been through the whole thing. I manifested the biggest selling book in the world. I know how I did it.
Uh-huh.
I did a part of that was I'd be on these flying around the world doing my things. My meditation would always be Men are from Mars, Women are from Venus, #1 bestseller in the world. I did that's my mantra.
Uh,
Resonated in that field, I resonated because it was happening. But long before that, I was not happening. I was feeling the negative I wanted it, but it didn't happen. I wanted it, it didn't happen. It went on the list, it went off the list. The publisher canceled me, and then I had got on a list, and then it was selling. I sold 100,000 books in 3 months, and in hardback, and it still wasn't on the bestseller list. There were forces against that book, and always, people think, oh, he's so successful. He must have had such an easy ride. For 9 years, I never received a
yeah.
positive interview. Hear that idea. Never received a positive print interview. He's a fraud. He's dangerous. He's fake. He's a
Mhm.
sexist. He's terrible. Now, the balance of that, I always had positive video interviews. Okay. The TV loves me. I mean, how can you not? If you hear my message, you see he's a friendly guy. You relate to this. This must be interesting ideas. But the writers, for whatever reason, they never said anything good about me. And that's the case for all bad news is good news. I got
Mhm.
more notoriety as and here I am at where I am now. It used to be I used to get I remember my TED talk in the beginning, my TED talk had all these negative comments. But now when I go, as millions of people have done it, it will go up to many millions. It comes back down. People regulate these things. But if you look, it's all positive comments now. It was like you have to weather the storm of resistance, and then something gets formed and it's there. And then you go to a new level, and then you have to weather resistance. It's every step we move along, and it all has to do with changing within ourselves. So back to the question of, the challenges that spiritual women have when their husbands aren't spiritual. It's simply, I feel I need to resonate. He needs to resonate with me on that. No, you need to have to connect with other women. See, I see this as a big thing today. Now let's take it out of the context of spiritual, not spiritual. Just take it out into the context of
Yeah.
unhappy women in relationships.
Yeah.
The dynamic is they don't have enough time with other women. See, they're looking for what a woman would give them, which is resonance with their feminine side with a man. You
Mhm.
can't get that from a man, okay? You're just not gonna get it, and if you do, you don't want it. Many women, they wanna know what a man is feeling, so here's a practical technique. It's a little bit radical, but these are spiritual people, so you're connected to wisdom, but so much frustration happens when a man is quiet,
Yeah.
and then a woman will say, "What are you feeling? What are you thinking?" And he'll say, "Nothing." And then she said, "Must be something. What?" Okay. And then after a while, she keep probing. She'll say, "I know you're angry with me." And he'll say, "I wasn't angry until you kept asking me questions, and now I'm angry." Or it could be that he's a little annoyed with you. Let's say you did something. And then you get him to talk about what he's a little annoyed about. He will always become more annoyed. Even if you didn't say anything, just talking out loud when a man has any negative emotion, if he talks it out loud, he will become more negative. Okay, this is now the difference is if a woman has a negative emotion and she talks it out loud, her estrogen will go up, her stress will go down. You see, whenever women are stressed, their estrogen's too low. If they can talk about what's bothering them and somebody's not making them wrong for it, talking about it will raise estrogen and cortisol will go down. Just talking.
Mm.
This is why we have therapy. This is why counseling and everything is going on. It's mainly women who fund this operation because it's really good for women. It can be helpful for men from the point of view if the therapist understands you're dealing with a man and you have to analyze and challenge. I just was counseling a guy. I have such compassion for women if they try to change a man. You just can't change a man. But if a man comes to me for counseling, I have to change him. At least I know how. But it's like a boxing match. I have to win the boxing match with logic. It's
Mhm.
competition. You don't see the great thing about women, you don't have to do that. If you try to do that, you lose. You have the advantage always in that every man, his greatest happiness is making a woman happy.
Mm.
Every woman, her greatest happiness is having someone make her happy so that she can then take care of her children or help the poor or help some vulnerable person.
Yeah.
But we are designed differently. If I do something like right now, I'm writing a book. Okay, I'm editing a book. Just finished this book. Now I'm writing another book. This book is called Men Fall in Love and Stay in Love. If women don't understand why men fall in love and stay in love, then men will fall out of love and never fall back in love. It's not
Mhm.
him. It's women do it. You
Mhm.
see, it's always like, you have the thought as a woman, and so many women do. If he would only change, I could love him so much.
Yeah.
If he would just not, she will say, I love him, but if he would only change, then I could really open my heart to him.
Yeah.
But I love him. Okay. So what I have to say is, you love him only this much if you're waiting for him to change to
Yeah.
fully love him. But anyway, women know that if he did change, she could open her heart. She'd feel safe. She could trust. She could open up, and all kinds of wonderful, beautiful feminine qualities would come out of her. Now, turn that around and realize that if you could only love him the way he needs to be loved, he will totally change.
Mm.
I can't sit there and love a man and he's going to change. I'm just another guy. I just have to prove I'm right and you're wrong. Okay, that's how I counsel men. You're a fool. You're an idiot. This is stupid. Well, what does that, it's kind of a Dr. Phil thing at that point. And how's that working for you? It's like, you have to point out to men that what they're doing is not working. That's men using logic against another man's logic. That's the only way men change. Okay.
Ah.
But from a woman, you don't have to use logic. If you use logic to try to change a man and making him wrong, it's never going to work. He'll fight you, whatever. He'll lose touch with his willingness to love you, because that's your greatest power. Is that men need to feel their wife loves him, that she thinks he's good enough, that he's someone that she can depend on, that she's lucky to be with him, she's happy to be with him. And if you're over here being spiritual and you think that he has to be spiritual too for the relationship to work, he'll become worse, and he'll become worse, and he'll become worse. You can't bring out the best in him if you come from a place of, oh yeah, I got my friends, I'm so happy, I'm so lucky, I got you and I got them. Then there's no battle there.
Yeah.
And try to convince him, try to get him to agree. Uh, you just have to back off on that one and realize that's not something you need.
Mhm.
When the whole COVID thing happened, what they found is that people who had healthy vitamin D, they never got sick for more than a few days. It wasn't some big pandemic. It's just that they were older and they weren't making vitamin D. Those are the only people at risk. And you could actually give them vitamin D or have them do what people did a long time ago. They would go to a sanitarium where they would lie in the sun. That's how they used to cure people. They used to give them whey protein. They'd make fresh raw milk and turn it into whey protein drinks. They'd basically give them smoothies and lay out in the sun all day, and that would heal them. I mean, it's God's gift as mother's milk. I mean, it all comes from the mother. Unfortunately, milk doesn't have its healing powers now because we heat it up and we at high temperatures, and that's not so great.
Mhm.
Well, we use cow milk. The problem with cow milk, though, is it is for cows. It's 90% casein as opposed to 50% casein. Mother's milk is 50% casein. Part of my youthfulness at 74 years old is I created my own mother's milk that I drink every day, which is a protein shake, which is the right balance of whey protein and casein protein. And with
Mhm.
that balance, I put enzymes in it. And with those enzymes, I sit it out for 45 minutes and it digests itself. So I get
Mhm.
pre-digested protein, goes right to my brain. Uh, 25 years ago, I had early stage Parkinson's, and for me, that's what cured it.
Oh.
It was amazing. Along with, and I like to mention this because spiritual people, whenever you have an exalted state of spirituality, you will crash. Okay, this is what happens with spirituality: is that it requires more minerals. When I meditate, I will go into a state of ecstasy, and to whatever extent in the early stages you have bliss. So when you feel bliss, you feel, oh, it's such blissful. What's happening is your brain is producing a lot of dopamine and a lot of serotonin at the same time. It's the male side, the female side happening in synchrony. When that happens, you use up the balancing mineral in your brain, which is called lithium. And I've been promoting lithium because it's a big part of my own inner healing. Uh, and part of why I ended up having Parkinson's, this is my definition of it, is that I would spend, an average of 6 hours, if not 10 hours a day in deep meditation and
Mhm.
ecstasy. Well, when you go into ecstasy, you use up brain minerals, and the brain mineral you use up whenever you're happy. If you're bliss, it's even more. If you're in ecstasy, it's even more. Balancing your male female energies to become the one, you lose lithium. That's the function of lithium. So lithium was given to bipolar patients who were like go really high, I'm the king of the world, I'm one with God and whatever, and then they crash down, I want to kill myself. So that would be the extreme highs and lows that some people who are more sensitive would experience. And they gave them lithium, but they had an inferior form of lithium, and that would cause side effects because the inferior form of lithium, still lithium, but it was what is lithium bonded to? It was bonded to carbonate, and to get it into the brain, it's like taking it out of the dirt. You'd have to give 500 times the dose. Anything good for you, it's a salt. So imagine 500 times the dose of salt, you're going to have side effects. Well, a German doctor discovered that you can take a tiny bit of lithium, which is all you need, and bond it to a substance in mother's milk called uric acid. And you bind it together, it go into the brain, and it regenerates your brain. And I saw it in petri dishes. It makes brain cells grow. I've been promoting it for 25 years, and I'm only bringing it up because right now Harvard University has finished a 10-year study, and now they're recommending lithium orotate, the thing I've been promoting for 10 years, which is 22 years, is the treatment for Alzheimer's. And it
Oh,
not only reverses Alzheimer's, according to them. I'm not saying to do it for that because that would put me in trouble. And they also say as a preventative. So that's what the Harvard University researchers are doing. Lithium orotate, you can buy it online. You can't buy it in stores. And unfortunately, I'm sure people from around the world are listening to this. They can't get it because the pharmaceutical industry has made it illegal everywhere except America. It's not illegal to take because it's not a drug. It's just a mineral supplement, but you can't sell it. And I know that I know I'm the owner of Whole Foods is in my men's group. Okay. So Whole Foods now was taken over by Amazon. But even knowing him, he couldn't get it into the stores either because the logic of this simple little mineral supplement called lithium orotate is it will make you happy if you're not happy. If you're already happy, it doesn't do anything, but it'll make you happy. And so they say, well, since it makes you happy, people will think I have to eat, if I eat the whole bottle, it will make me happier. And it won't. It's just all you need. It's like you need vitamin D, you need lithium. And because you're spiritual, you need more lithium. Or
okay.
because you're really happy or you're really stressed, either one, where your brain has to work harder to find balance.
Hmm. Well, that's a whole lot of information. That's fabulous.
We're
I'm
both
interested to
looking at
know
our
about.
clocks there.
Yeah, well, and it's funny. 'Cause definitely didn't want to stop you, but there's so many things um, that triggered my memories of what you were saying. Number one, I was that child that was raised by parents from Texas. I was the one that got the belt, and I was to be seen and not heard. And I do want to go back to that just for a minute
Yeah, please.
because,
This is question answer time. I got my
well,
basics.
well, the reason why I want to go back to it is because people that were raised like us, I was a horrible communicator. I'm still a bad communicator. And like, I just talk and I don't think about how people are receiving it. It just comes out because I didn't have the interaction of the other person being able to say, well, wait a minute, this is how I feel about what you're saying. And so I am the poster child for the non-communicator, the one that doesn't know when to speak and when not to speak. Not very good at relationships because I don't know how to communicate with the partner. And so what you were saying about raising a child where you definitely, I mean, my parents were, you're supposed to sit in the corner, no adult wants to hear you talk. So you want to just sit there and be a good child and be quiet. And if you do
Yeah,
something
terrible
wrong,
message.
then
So
yeah,
many children get that message.
yeah, yeah. And, and then, of course, if you're bad, you're going to get the belt or the hairbrush.
So let's analyze that for just a moment. If you get punished for being bad, your child gets the message that if I make a mistake, I
Yep.
don't deserve to be loved. And then if I suffer, now because I suffer, I deserve to be loved. So
Mhm.
what we do in our lives, we do two things. We don't want to suffer, so we constantly hide from our mistakes. If you hide from your mistakes, you can't grow from your mistakes. You end up having to blame somebody else for your mistakes. And if you
Mhm.
can't learn, if you don't own your own mistakes, then you can't connect with the divine.
Yeah.
Okay, because the divine is to not when you think of your divine self as knowing that was a mistake.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
every time you know I made a mistake, you're connecting with your divine if you make the change, which is what I love about I'm a Christian. And what I love about Christianity, although I'm very respectful of all universal messages, but the best thing about Christianity is for people to repent. Because repent means I made a mistake and I promise not to do it again. Even if you do it again, at least that moment you're connecting with your divine source when you realize I made a mistake, I feel some regret, and now I want to feel, I promise not to do it again.
Yeah.
And then you have forgiveness.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is not there unless somebody promises not to do it again.
Yeah.
I forgive
Well,
everybody, but I don't, for myself, I don't
yeah.
spend time with people who I've forgiven, but they haven't repented. So
Yeah.
the key thing, a key attitude when it comes to love. You can love people, wish them well, but I don't want to spend time with you because you're not willing to look at your own mistakes.
Yeah, and there is something to that. It's like this whole thing about forgiveness, but just because you can and loving unconditionally, you can love unconditionally, and but it doesn't mean that you have to be around them.
Well,
You
my
know,
wife always says to me, she says, I can't believe anybody who can be so unconditional loving as you. Will you always love me? I said, no. If you become an axe murderer, you're out of my life.
and there's the point. You can love them from afar.
And I love you from afar, absolutely.
You don't have to be within
And if you
them.
actually are axe meter, I hope you'll get put in jail so you can't hurt anybody else. But
Exactly.
I wish they would treat you better. That's all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but I want to go back to that, because of that generation of not being able to talk about your feelings, not being able to express your ideas and your thoughts and all of the things. And what I found was that, I was born in 1963, so that time frame was very structured in men are to be men. I can remember my dad. I grew up in Reno, Nevada, like skiing up at Squaw Valley and Heavenly Valley, and we'd go down a hill, and I'd want to say, "I can't do this," and I'd start crying, and he was like, "You better suck it up, don't you cry." And so that got ingrained in me, is I
Yeah.
can't show my emotions, I can't cry. And my brother, he did the same way, because that was the generation. You don't feel your emotions. And so what I'm finding and what I see is that men don't know how to show their emotions or how to feel what they're feeling. They don't know how to process. Is that what?
I think men and women don't know how to process emotions. I mean,
Yeah.
I spend all this time with women every day. 8 hours a day for 10 years. I was listening to women. And my main job is to help women actually look at what their emotions are. Women can say things like, I feel like he doesn't love me, and they'll complain and they'll criticize, but they're not actually feeling, I'm scared, I'm afraid, I'm sad, I feel despair, I feel shame. That's not on the tip of their tongue. It's
Yeah.
not on the tip of the tongue of her and not on him. And it's very hard for men to get there. It's easy for women to get there with a good listener and
Yeah.
somebody knows to point her in the right direction.
Yeah.
I even created an app which helps women to point in the right direction. It asks you for five. It's called Heart Space. It's not
Okay.
available yet, but what it does, it asks you 4 questions, how you would normally answer, like a therapist, like what's bothering you, what are you missing, what are you concerned about, and then it will write out like 4 pages of what your emotions are.
Yeah.
And maybe not all of them are accurate, but then you kind of go, oh my gosh, all that's going on inside of you, and you start to cry at the end
Yeah.
because you touch into the pain that all women carry around. Everybody's got pain, but
Yeah.
women more so. And why so is because women, in order just to be feminine, you need to make 20 times more estrogen than a man, and
Mm.
it's estrogen that allows you to feel. And so those feelings get blocked when you can't express them. But the number one way for a woman to regulate stress in her body, and this is proof, what women will tend to do is when something bothers them, they ruminate. Men don't. This is very important for women to know. Women often think that men are suppressing everything. Let's say a man gets upset with you, goes to his cave, ignores you for a couple of days. He comes out of the cave. She thinks, oh, he's still upset with me. He's not. He's done. Okay, we don't ruminate. It doesn't even take 2 days. Sometimes it's just 10 minutes, and he's fine again. But see, if a woman gets upset, she's not fine right away. He ruminates. It goes on, goes for days. Some women for the rest of their life, he forgot
Yeah.
this one thing, and she's going to ruminate over it and over it and over it. The process that allows a woman to stop ruminating is what we've learned in therapy. Is getting a woman to talk about what she's feeling inside and then talk about what emotions she's feeling. If you don't get down to actually feeling the emotion, and articulating the emotion. And the emotions that release stress are very simple. There's frustration, there's anger, and there's rage. Okay, outrage, anger, frustration, and outrage. And they all go from different parts of your brain. Frustration's more from the more conscious part of your brain. The limbic system is more of your anger, and then outrage is primitive. It's really disgust. It's like, but most people, we're so shut down. We don't use the word disgust unless something is really, really disgusting. But it's actually there all the time. Most people just aren't aware of it. Um, then that's the one part, and then another part is whenever you're angry, you're also you can't be angry if you don't also have some disappointment. See, anger is I didn't get what I wanted. So then if you look at, okay, what did I want? I didn't get it. What's the other emotion? It's disappointment. That's the front part of the brain. Sadness, the middle part of the brain, and feeling hurt is in the back part of the brain. So this feeling hurt, sad, and disappointment, those are also always there when there's stress. Then there can't be hurt and disappointment if there's not also fear. So why does something hurt? Like, hey, I didn't get what I needed. Well, what's the problem with that? It's only the problem with that is your brain goes, and I'll never get what I need. I won't be able to get it in the future. And that's your fears. So fear is always there. Whenever there's stress, there's fear. And so part of processing emotion is to be able to go into those emotions and articulate them. When you give a name to an emotion, it connects the back part of the brain to the front part of the brain. The front part of the brain identifies things. And by understanding these emotions, you look at, okay, what's making me feel angry? What's happening that makes me feel angry? That's being more objective. And then why am I angry? It's the reasons I'm angry, because that starts to analyze. So when you start to analyze and you're a woman, now you're starting to bring a little logic into your emotions. Emotions are not logical. Okay, they're just reactions. They're conditioned responses from childhood. Then we put logic onto it. So what you're doing is you're feeling the emotion, then you say, and why do I feel this way? So why I'm angry is I deserve better. Why am I sad? Because I need to feel loved and supported. Why am I afraid? Because I don't know how to do this differently. I'm not sure what the future is going to bring. And then what your brain starts to do is starts giving you answers of it doesn't have to happen again. You have the power to change it. All of this happens automatically in your brain without you doing anything if you just write out all these emotions in a personal letter. You have to
Mm.
personalize it because emotions only come out. A lot of people are just writing out their emotions, and that's good, but it becomes much more powerful if you imagine I'm talking to my mother, or I'm talking to my father, I'm talking to my husband. You would never give them these letters, but you imagine you're talking to them because your brain gets to feel like I'm being heard. If you're just hearing yourself, it's not as powerful. It's okay. But you write the letter to someone that you're upset with or someone who cares about you and loves you. And usually the people we're upset with also care and love us. But
Mhm.
so you write these letters. It's all in the book. I explain how to do it. I even have an app that will do it for you to demonstrate to you. Just if you told me my husband's ignoring me, he's not spiritual, and I want a partner who is spiritual, it will then process all your emotions for you to a certain extent to give you ideas of what could be inside of you. So as you're going through it, you'll kind of go, oh yeah, that's what I'm feeling. Oh, that's what I'm doing. And I'm very good about this. I've been doing this 40 years. And when I use the app, sometimes it will make me aware of something I'm feeling that I didn't realize I was feeling. And that
Mm.
transformation occurs. You'll hear people telling stories about their life, and you don't feel any transformation because they haven't gotten deeper into it.
Right.
You see, like the first time you tell it, like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize this. And then now you've realized that, you just repeat the story. There's no energy in it. It's always it's always going a little deeper into a way of understanding it, a way of seeing it from a different perspective. And it's a gradual process of us looking to our past and being able to see it from a different point of view. I could
Mhm.
tell you all the tragedies and you could happen in my life, and you would just think I'm the most unhappy person in the world. And but I am one of the most happy people in the world because I'm
Mhm.
able to turn things around. We are designed to see the bad and the good. The prefrontal cortex is a science. The left prefrontal cortex is the optimistic part of us. The right prefrontal cortex is the pessimistic part of us. We're supposed to look at problems and then see solutions. We're not
Hmm.
supposed to be optimistic all the time. We're not supposed to be pessimistic all the time. The problem is when our hormones are out of balance, when women are making too much testosterone, they will stay in the pessimistic part of their brain all the time.
Oh.
If they have the right balance of testosterone, testosterone is the male hormone. We call it male hormone because men need to make 10 to 20 times more. Otherwise, we're depressed or angry. Okay. So we have to make that hormone. So anytime we get messages that we're successful, testosterone goes up. And if we're successful in a relationship with a woman, that's the magic. Then what happens is not only does testosterone go up, but our estrogen goes up with it. And that's what opens a man's heart. For
Mm.
a woman, her heart opens when her estrogen goes up. She doesn't have to have testosterone go up. But for her to experience ecstasy, then that would be like orgasmic pleasure. She has to have testosterone going up and estrogen. That's when a woman has the highest estrogen and testosterone at the same time. And that can be cultured just by asking for help. If you ask for help from a man, your testosterone goes up because you're taking action, you're taking a risk, and you're asking him to do something for you. So you're being responsible to get what you need. And when he responds to you, then your estrogen goes up. So for women to balance their male female side, the hardest thing for women is to learn how to ask for help. And
Hmm.
there's many reasons for that, but there's so many reasons for that. My mother never asked my dad for anything because he was already doing everything. Because
Hmm.
in the traditional 50s and 60s, what were men expected to do?
Yeah.
Just have a good job, provide a house for your wife, and then pull out the belt when the kids wouldn't listen to her.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I'm curious about the hormone thing because hormones are really big right now. I mean, you can get hormone pellets and all the stuff every time you turn around. There's some place opening up. Okay, but so if you're talking about
Look at the
estrogen,
warning look at the warning on those things. The warning is they can potentially cause cancer.
okay, what I do want, I'm glad that you're bringing this up. This is a good subject because everybody's it's like the latest fad kind of thing. But okay, so I actually I only have one ovary because I had to have surgery and they removed one, and I am post premenstrual whatever. I'm through all that cycle. I had my uterus removed. It had a
All right,
hysterectomy and
okay, got
one
it.
ovary
So you don't
removed.
have okay, so you don't have any more eggs. Got it.
So yeah, so okay, so how if I'm not producing the estrogen naturally,
Well, first of
then
all, you're 60 years old. Oh, I'm well, something like that from when you told me when you grew up.
yeah,
Uh,
61.
yeah, okay. So you're actually an exception. You're doing really well for a 60-year-old. I look at your skin and I can see that you're still making some estradiol. Okay,
Oh,
there's no
good.
question about it. And that's because you're in a spiritual relationship.
Oh,
See, you've got God by your side. When you pray to God, you ask God, God gives you answers. And when you have clients come in, you ask for help.
yeah.
When you ask for help from the divine and you receive it, you produce huge amounts of estradiol, even though other women don't. Once you go through menopause, this is if you go to your doctor, why they say we need to give you estradiol. There's more types of estrogen, but these are the two major ones. There's estrogen. When I'm talking about estrogen, the balance of testosterone, estrogen lowers your stress. It's estradiol.
Yeah.
And then there's estrone. As soon as you're going through menopause, your body is no longer making estradiol. That's why women have so many symptoms. They're making estrone. Estrone is defined as weak estradiol, as weak estrogen is what it's called. And why they call it weak is because it doesn't do all the good things that estradiol does.
Mm.
So what estradiol does, for example, is keeps you from having wrinkles. You can see women who are estrone dominant, they have all these wrinkles as they get older. And that's just because they don't have estradiol. They're also vulnerable for a lot of sicknesses. They're aging faster. They have osteoporosis off the chart. And it's all because they're not making estradiol. They're making
Huh.
estrone. Now, you can make estradiol all by yourself without going to the doctor and getting potentially dangerous shots of estradiol. Although when women get those shots, they feel good. But if you've got
Yeah.
cancers growing in your body, it will accelerate the cancer growth if you take estradiol. If you make it, it's not going to have any problem with your with it. Making it is just going to lower your stress, and you don't get cancer unless you're stressed. Okay, these are you don't get heart disease unless you're stressed. You don't get cancer unless you're stressed. That's all.
Mhm.
Cancer is more emotional stress. Uh, so is heart disease. Heart disease is more for extroverted, and then you have more the introverted, the more sensitive ones. Their
Mhm.
stress will cause cancer. And so, people pleasers. If you're a people pleaser, your vulnerability to cancer is much greater, and if you're a woman, it's even more greater. So, off that subject, but the subject of hormones is you make hormones. So I wrote a whole book. I can't give the whole book in 3 minutes here, but I'll give you some basics. But that book is called Beyond Mars and Venus. Beyond Mars and Venus is a whole workbook on what you can do and say and feel and not do in order to produce estrogen in your body and in order for men to make testosterone in their body. But for you, you're making good amounts of estradiol. Your life is not all easy, so there's stress in your life, but you're able to go to God, and God will take away that stress. Every time you feel stressed, what happens is you make cortisol. If you didn't make cortisol, you can't make estradiol. This is the paradox. You have to have some stress, and then you have to ask for help. And if help comes and the stress goes down, you make estradiol.
Mm.
Okay, so
Interesting.
this is called being vulnerable. You have to be vulnerable. And I would imagine in your work that you do where you're connecting and channeling, you're always vulnerable because
Mm.
you have no control over it. Says so
Yeah.
you're completely powerless. You're asking for help and it comes. So you have pure vulnerability and somebody helps you. Now, for women who don't have your gift and don't channel and so forth, what you do is you basically go to your husband, and a lot of techniques in my new book, Be Happy with or Without a Man. This is one of them. It's called Venus Talk. And you go to him and you say, I want to talk for 10 minutes. And I'm going to talk about things that are bothering me that have nothing to do with you. All I want you to do is listen and not say anything and not comment afterwards. Don't even say, I hear you. Just listen to me. And I'm going to speak freely about other things that are bothering me. And I'm going to let myself become more upset than I am. Okay. So I permission to complain, permission to be disappointed, permission. You want to bring up these emotions, but if any of these emotions implies that he is responsible, he can't hear you. And what you want is him to hear you because that's where the healing happens.
Yeah.
So the only way men can hear is when they're not feeling blamed. If a man in any way feels it's his fault, what's called mirror neurons, well, they will close and he can't feel what you feel. He will defend. He will make you wrong. He can't do anything other than he's designed to do that. They've measured
Mm.
this in laboratories. If you're talking to a man and he feels blamed, these mirror neurons close. For women, you can't understand this because yours don't. A woman's mirror neurons only close if they have experienced consistent chronic stress for a long period of time. Then she will feel, I have nothing left to give. I don't care. You're out of my life. I'm done. So, and women have that sense. They already know. But otherwise, their mirror neurons will open and close, but they never like fully close. For a man, all it takes in an instant, once he feels blamed for something, they close. Immediately, he goes into a part of his brain which doesn't have emotion, doesn't have feeling. He can't empathize with you. And if he
Mm.
can't empathize with you, he can't feel what you're feeling. When you're sharing with him, your mirror neurons are open and you're feeling what he's feeling, which is nothing. And so you feel more stress by talking to a man who can't feel what you say. That's why you have to be talking with women. At least they can hear what you're feeling. But
Yeah.
to get a man to listen, that's another book in my 6 books in a 6 series that's coming out over the next 2 years. They're 3 months apart. It's called How to Talk to a Man So He'll Listen. Now, that's a whole book on it, but this is a short course in it, is in this new book. And it's where you do Venus talks, where you just say 10 minutes. I'm going to talk about other things that are bothering me. Stress. You have to talk about what's stressing me. You have to give yourself permission to be negative and say to him, I'm just going to be negative for 10 minutes. And afterwards, I'm going to feel better because I made a lot of estrogen and that's going to lower my stress. And that will produce estradiol. And the actual, for all the scientists that are listening that are probably aren't listening, but I have to say this because science is always trying to tell me I'm wrong and I'm right. And I found the mechanism in which it happens is that when a woman experiences a short-term stress, cortisol surge, if help comes and the stress goes down, what happens in her body is the stress produces a hormone called DHEA, and
Yeah.
DHEA then causes the conversion of testosterone into estradiol. So the way you produce estradiol once you have estrone is you have to put yourself in a stressful situation and somebody helping you, and then you'll produce estradiol. And that's not automatic, because estrone, the effect it has on women is makes them self-sufficient. It says, I don't need anything. You see,
Mm.
the estradiol woman has this estradiol that says, I need a man, otherwise I can't make a baby. And the body says, are designed to make a baby. So, but suddenly, if when you can't make babies anymore, your body says, okay, we're just going to give you peace. You're going to have estrone, but you're going to die because you can't make babies, so we don't need you anymore. So your body will start to age quickly with estrone, unless you have a relationship with God, unless you have a relationship with a man where you can be vulnerable. And if you're talking to other women, it can help. But you see, when you share your feelings with another woman, there's no danger.
Yeah.
When you share with a man, there's always the danger, because men don't instinctively resonate with you. And that's the
Yeah.
perfect thing for the spiritual woman, to share some of her experiences that she's had with her partner and say, now, you don't have to believe any of this stuff, but just know that it makes me happy. So I just want you to listen and then give me a hug and be glad for me.
Yeah.
So that would be my technique, because
Yeah.
that's dangerous to do, but it's not really dangerous, because you're telling him, I'm going to be happier afterwards. And you don't have to say anything. I don't need you to do it. I don't need you to change. And then just give me a hug. And when you do the hug, it should be an 8-second hug. Okay. And then also another instruction you give him, and during the hug at some point, or when we're done, just say, I love you. And then go into different rooms. Let all that settle in. Because it says, I want you to understand this hormone thing. If a man can do something to make a woman happy, his testosterone goes up. And when his testosterone goes up, his test stress goes down, his heart opens. If a woman can get a man to do something for her, her estrogen levels will go up, her stress will go down, and she will make more estradiol at any age.
Yeah. That is excellent information. I love that. So we are running out of time, because I know that you're on a time frame as well. But I didn't even get to a quarter of my questions, and I have so many. I wish we could have part two, because I have
We
so
can.
many.
I'm happy to do part two. It's like I'm talking to my mother here, a spiritual woman. She was
Okay.
connected.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we might have part two, but in the meantime, until we get to part two, I want to really exaggerate and really tell people about these books that you've written. And so, first of all, being happy with or without a man, I think we're in an interesting time right now where relationships are shifting and changing. And women are actually recognizing that they don't have to have a man in their life. They don't have to be married. They don't have to live in that paradigm. And this is why I felt like that book was really important. Now, you have touched on so many different areas in relationships, and being able to understand the male and the female construct, that I really want to just really encourage people to read everything that you have to offer, and especially during the shift that we're going through right
Yeah.
now. So what are the best ways to find your books? Because I know they're everywhere. I
Well,
think it's maybe silly.
probably it's a few delays on the Be Happy With or Without a Man. It might be October 15th before that's released on Amazon. But
Okay.
there's a book that's on Amazon and lots of bookstores. It's called Beyond Mars and Venus. And that really is a very voluminous information on female hormones, which women all need to understand. And it really talks about the shift that we're in right now.
Okay.
And Pluto is going to go out of retrograde around October 15th. So this is a good thing for everybody's relationships. So
Yeah.
you're having challenges in your relationships now, folks. Just know it's going to shift on the 15th. Look
Yeah.
forward to a nice shift.
Yeah. And we are the relationships
And
have
I want
been
to answer
really.
your question more. Is it marsvenus.com is where people can find more information with me. We have a lot of wonderful blogs. We have classes. We have a free class right on the homepage. Also, we have 6-week classes that you can pay for, and they're wonderful. And the most popular one I'll just mention is called Understanding Men. It's for women only. Another one, which is for women only, is called How to Get Your Me Time, which is more just about what parts of your life will produce testosterone, which part produces estrogen, what part produces progesterone. I didn't even get into progesterone. It's just women are complicated.
Yeah, yeah, we are.
But you don't need progesterone once you're in menopause. But for the younger women, it's a lot of having to balance estrogen with progesterone along with testosterone. And so that's the class on how to get your me time. Whereas the understanding men is just so helpful for women to know what you're dealing with. If you're not getting what you want from a man, it's because you really don't understand him. We are the heroes. We give our lives for you. We just have to train us. You want to be a soldier, you got training. You have to go through boot camp. You have to learn to be a man. And men are not taught that today. We've been
Yeah.
feminized and trying to please women because women don't know what men need. Women don't know that. So once you understand how to feed a man, he'll come back again and again for his food.
Yeah. Well, and so a silly question, but do you have information like you do for women for men? Do you have
I have,
where
I
men
have,
can understand women?
I have the basic men are from Mars, women are from Venus course. Okay, so that's
Okay.
all men need. Men are simple creatures. They just need a certain amount of information. More what they need is how she can approach him. Women have the power to bring out the best in men. Listen, for men, they don't buy these books anyway. The only course I have for men that men buy is my Secrets of Great Sex, which I think all couples should read. It's funny, it's light, it's entertaining. But if you want to introduce men from Mars to a man, that's all he needs to understand because it helps him understand himself and women. It's just the
Awesome.
subtleties of how to. My books are basically how to get a man to change. Okay, do whatever you
Yeah.
want. Uh, and my message is not men how to get a woman to change. You shouldn't be trying to change a woman.
Yeah.
Uh, but Men from Mars will help explain himself to himself so he can be more masculine. And it's a basic. And if you want a man to read that, ask him to watch my TED talk. Say it's a funny talk I heard. John Gray's like a comedian, and then he'll get the basic message. And then have the book Men from Mars hanging around your house, or you could go to him with the book and say, "Here's this chapter on men go to their caves. Tell me if this is true."
Mhm.
So every man, when they read that, though, finally somebody understands a man in his cave. Now it's become every man's got his cave, but they still don't understand the dynamic. It's become just part of the whole vernacular of our society. That book just touched everything. And
Yeah.
women need to talk, but women have to learn how to talk, and men have to
Right.
learn how to come out of their cave. So
Mhm. Yeah.
so anyway, there's more to it than just the surface. That
Yeah.
book is enough for men, but
Yeah.
for women,
Okay.
they have the power to bring out the best in a man.
Perfect. Okay. So, gosh, what great information. And again, we just skimmed the top. I mean, barely,
Yeah, yeah.
just barely touched all of the information. So, I do want to let everybody know that all of Dr. John's stuff, Dr. John Gray, remember that name, all of his information is going to be in the video description that's going to be below the video. So, make sure that you scroll down to the end of the video description and you'll see his website. And then plus, obviously, he's everywhere. Just Google him and you'll find all of his stuff.
Thank you.
So I thank you again, Dr. Gray, for being with us. And thank you guys for listening. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks.